veteran. I have the honor and privilege of sitting here and speaking with none other than the laugh therapist himself. He is a stand-up comedian. He is a morning show host. He's a co-host of the Jamal Bates Morning Show. And of course, if he's on this show, he's a fellow veteran.
Yes.
Vernard Hines is with us today, retired Army soldier for life, as they like to say now. And I want to thank you. And I'm going to dive right in because I'm super curious about everything.
Okay. Thank you for having me, sir.
Yeah, I've enjoyed everything that I've seen, and we're going to get into all that. But let's start with your origin story. What was the situation where you decided to not just join the Army, but I should say the military, but the branch you chose, the job? How did that come about? What was the decision there?
Well, I'm a comedian, so a lot of my stories, I like to make it funny or make it, where people can just dive right into it. I'm originally from Norfolk, Virginia. So when I was in high school, my report card, my grade spelled Eddie. That's why. Oh that's what my grades were bad. So my counselor told me something I need to do with my life. She said, you ever thought about the military? So being from Norfolk, Virginia, I knew I didn't want to go in the Navy because largest naval base in the world. They told me if you go in the Navy, all you're going to do is end up right back home. Because I was like, nah, I won't do that. So I decided to join the Army. And, because they had the best commercials. Commercial was, we do more before 9 a.m. than most people do all day. I said, well, I don't wake up to 7:30 and be finished by 9. Okay, let's do it. Fool me. They woke us up 3 o'clock in the morning. You should be finished by 9 o'clock. So that got me right there. And then I joined, and I really was, a person that did enough in school to pass. So, I did what everybody said. I'm going into the military so I can get money for college. I wasn't going to no college. Not that I didn't. I just wasn't a person right then that prepared myself for education or what I was supposed to do. So the military really was a great stepping stone for me because I needed guidance. I wasn't a bad kid, was never in trouble growing up. I played around a lot. That's where my comedy came from. I was the jokester. I was the class clown. I always was the barbecue comedian. So going into the military gave me structure. And I realized I didn't have to learn anything in the military because a manual came with everything. From how to eat, how to sleep,
The bed. Yeah.
How you make it was a manual for everything. So I'm like, I can follow directions. You know what I'm saying? So I followed directions for 20 years, 7 months, and 4 days.
God bless you.
And
Fantastic.
it has been a journey. I'm not gonna say all was good, but not all was bad. But everything was a learning experience.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, I bet you cracked up everyone in boot camp too, right from the beginning.
Well, not in boot camp. In boot camp, I was scared to death. I did not get in trouble. I was always I was scared. But once I got out of boot camp or realized boot camp is really, I'm not gonna say a game, but it really was a mind thing. I was like, okay, because I always played sports. So I looked at boot camp as a sport. It's like, okay, if you do push-ups, the push-ups is only to build you up.
Sure.
They say it's for punishment, but it's really to make you. So I started getting, Rob, I started getting muscles. I'm like, what in the world? So I would get in trouble on purpose. I want to do some push-ups. I want to do some funny kicks. I looked in the mirror. I said, I am sitting here. So I took it as that, and hey, it worked out.
Yeah, I only pulled off one joke in all of the training between basic and AIT, and I still remember the joke because it was a painful punishment afterwards for it.
Mm-hmm.
It was AIT. This is after initial basic. You still have drill sergeants, and on Sundays only, you had time you could go to church.
Yep,
which I did. But then also Sunday mornings, the chow hall had some desserts.
Okay,
like little donuts or whatever. And there was this one drill instructor at the end of the line. And he wasn't punishing or yelling. He was just sitting there with a little notepad, and he was just watching whoever took desserts.
Wow!
And I walk up to the table. I realized what he was doing, and he said, it was a private boot camp. He said,
correct.
Private Banis, can your body afford that donut?
Wow!
And I said, no, Joe Sargent, but you can put on a tab. And sure enough, 4 or 5 nights go by. This is Fort Jackson, South Carolina. It's raining, pouring rain. He comes up to the rack and he goes, so.
What?
Let's talk about your tab.
Oh wow! Do you remember? Do you remember his name?
McKinley. Yeah.
There
Drill
you
sergeant.
go. It's
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
one drill sergeant
Yeah.
that does something to make you remember their name. And
I loved, for me, it was like, there's always three, at least.
right.
I don't know if that's changed, but this is almost 30 years ago.
Hmm.
There's always three. There's one that's like the mean, tough,
Correct.
meeting all the time. He's always on. Da, 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 always on. Then there's one that's more of like the educator, the firearms
Hmm.
expert or whatever,
Yep.
the more technical. And then the other one's kind of like they can go either way. So like they're kind of the referee.
I know all three of them. Sergeant Boone, Sergeant Grotting, and Sergeant Chavez. Now, Sergeant Boone, he was the cool one, but he would hit you below the belt. Like I went and showed him a picture of my girlfriend. She was in a bathing suit. I said, hey, Drill Sergeant Boone, look at my girlfriend. Ain't she fine? He said, yeah, she fine, but you here in boot camp. Who took that picture? Oh my God. Rob, I was done. I was done. I was done. It like, yeah, so it I'm telling you, it was a growing process and it was a
Yeah.
brotherhood that to this day I still have a friend.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's great times. So yeah, well, getting back to your path, I mean, I'm so glad Lord bless you with a great sense of humor. So you got through your
Yes.
training, no problem. Like you said, you bulked up. What was over the 20 years? What was some of the travels and we'll say adventures? What were some of the places
Well,
you went and learned there?
started out at basic training, Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Fort Lost in the Woods, as they call it.
Yep.
Then I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. I was a signal soldier. And signal soldier, our motto is you can talk about us, but you can't talk without us. So we had that one. Then I left there and went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I loved it. Uh, Repelled out the helicopter. Some I would never do being from the hood. I'm like jumping out no helicopter, sliding down. But I never forget. My commander said, PFC Hines, do you want to make private? I said, yeah. I mean, do you want to make special? I said, yes, sir. He said, not without no wings on your chest. Boom. Air
There
Assault
you go.
School.
Yeah, yeah.
And then one of the crazy things was when I was at Fort Campbell, that was my first duty station. So I was in the aviation unit.
Okay.
Okay, aviation. They don't go to field. When they go to field, they took connexes. We had
Right.
general. So I'm thinking this is the military. Oh, I can do this for 20 years. Left there, and they sent me to Germany, a field artillery unit. Life, they ruined me because I'm thinking 3 years in the aviation unit, we don't go to field. Now you send me, and I went on. You remember Reforger in Germany? I went on the last Reforger,
Oh,
and I never
geez.
forget. I had to go to the restroom. I had to do a number two. So I went and asked the sergeant. I said, "Excuse me, sir, where is the porta potties at?" Because aviation had porta potties. I mean, I'm like, aviation brought out porta potty. I like, so where's the porta potty? He was like, you better go over there by that tree, Rob. I'm like, I am not going over there by no tree. By that third day, I was by, I was by that. So it was basically, seriously, it was a culture shock for me going from a
Sure.
aviation unit where we did nothing. When you go to the field, you in the Connex, you just ran your wire, all that good stuff, to actually being in the field, running wire in the snow,
Oh,
hooking
yeah.
up to us. I mean, it was a culture shock, but I always could overcome it because I looked at it as a sport. But then I also always in my life, I always found in my adversity to find something to laugh about.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, laughter has saved my life in so many situations because I didn't take the situation too seriously.
Mhm.
And that's has really helped me. So I left there and then I came back to Fort Hood, Texas, the hottest place in the world. It is, gosh,
Been there. Yeah,
almighty.
yeah.
We stand in formation and the kiwi is melt. That's when you had to really shine your boots. And the kiwi is melting on your boots. And I never forget, we had the guy holding the guide on and he told her, he said, I gotta go to the bathroom. I gotta go to the bathroom. And he couldn't move. And the dead goes, first son said, be on yourself. Go ahead. And and we joked him, but it's those experiences in life that people don't know. Just because you're in the military, you still human.
Right.
You still got a family.
Yep.
Only thing is you don't do the 24/7, but you still go home. You still take care of your family,
Yeah.
so it was that. And then I left there and went back to Germany. And I left there, went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Mm,
Then I went to a place I didn't want to go to, called Iraq.
yeah. Been there too. Yeah.
Didn't understand anything. I mean, when you think about getting on a plane and you're going to now, the crazy thing about it, I left Germany, and when I left Germany, I went to Iraq 6 months after I left Germany.
Mm,
So I got my family to Fort Sill, trying to get acclimated to that. Now I go to a unit that's going to Iraq.
yeah.
So it was like, really don't know. And I'm going to a place I really don't know with a unit with people I'm just meeting. So it was a crazy mind situation. And just being over there, it was 2003,
Mm,
and it was during the Battle of Fallujah, one of the worst battles, and just being there with friends who did not come back with you.
yeah.
I had a young man, we used to speak every day. Every day we would sit by the I was mentoring him. We used to sit by the tank, and we would talk and everything, mentor him. And one day I had to go on a helicopter ride, and I came back, and he was getting on the helicopter. And as the helicopter took off in the middle of the flight, it got shot down.
Mm,
So I'm thinking to myself, wow, I just got off that. So it is just so much that people don't understand, that having PTSD and dealing with trauma, we had it while we was in Iraq, but we still had to continue the mission. You still had to find a place to compartmentalize what just happened. You know what I'm saying? We had 7 people die in one day. So you go to a memorial service in Iraq, and then next day or a couple of hours later, you have to go back on your mission.
mm,
Where do you compartmentalize that at?
yeah.
So it was a real battle for me in my mind, because I couldn't find anything funny about that. I couldn't find anything, and that was the first time in my life I felt like I can't laugh. I can't compartmentalize this. So that took away a part of me that always was with me. So I came back, I was numb. You get off the plane when you come back I went twice, but I knew something was wrong with me the first time I came back, but I didn't say anything,
Right.
because they ask you, you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. I've been going for a year. First thing I want is a beer and some sex. I mean, let's just be real. You know what I'm saying? Because if you say something was wrong with you, soon you got off the plane, they took you in a room. That held you up from going. Now, I'm sure years later it got much better, but when I
Yeah.
came back, that's what it was. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
oh no, I'm good.
I remember clear as day the out processing,
Yeah.
and a doctor came in and he said, "Okay, we're gonna talk about how you're feeling, and not saying it's going to change anything, but we're going to have further conversation behind this wall. The rest of you can proceed to get your DD 214s."
So where we going? I'm going to get my
Well, what do you
DD.
know? No one had any feelings about anything.
Nothing.
The whole
So
battalion was perfectly fine.
perfect. So what we had established in our unit was, because we was basically like the guinea pigs for when people come back. We had established we need to have a 30, a 60, and a 90-day evaluation. Because 30, when you start back getting involved with the family. 60, okay, now the kids are really, these kids really these are my kids. I really don't know these kids no more. They've been independent for a year. And then the 90 days is when, you go back in as a family. But it has really, I went through a divorce. I went through a divorce behind it, because it was too much for both of us. That now we're good friends. Now we co-parenting very well, but it was no book written for when you come back.
Right.
It was always, what about the veteran? Well, no, what about the spouse? What about the family? My son graduated college, and he made a statement. He like, no one understood how it was going through high school and your father's in war, not knowing if he's gonna come back or not. And I'm like, didn't even think he even felt like that.
Right.
So it was a whole lot. And then understanding PTSD is a total another battle,
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be labeled. I didn't want the stigma. And when I say being labeled, Rob, I had an uncle who was in the Vietnam War. And when he came back, he used to go to the Hampton VA hospital. And I used to hear my family call him or say, "Shut up, boy, go get in that corner. Man, you just talking up." And he was one of the smartest individual. His name was Billy. I give him Billy would read every day and would talk stuff that was over people's head. Now that I think about it, this brother was intelligent, but he talked a lot. So to them, it was like, "Shut up, go sit down." So when they told me I'm going to the VA and I might have, I know you're not going to label me. You're not going to say I'm this. You're not going to say I'm that. But he was shell shocked. Okay, that was his treatment. That's what they call it. But he had PTSD, and no one knew how to deal with that. So I was going to be like, "You are not going to label me. You're not going to say I have PTSD. I don't have no PTSD. I don't know what you're talking about." First of all, when they told me I had PTSD, Rob, only thing I heard was the S, the T, and the D. I thought the man said I had STD. I'm like, "What are you talking about? I don't have no STD." I said, "I got that cleared up back in 1988. What are you talking about?" But but I understood. Then he broke it down and told me what PTSD was, and I was still in denial. I was still in denial because it was like, I'm at the VA hospital. Because you want to be in your mind like nothing is wrong with me. I am okay, but everything around me was crumbling. My relationship with my kids was crumbling. My relationship with my family was crumbling. I wanted to, I like nothing happened to me. No, I went to war. You see things over there and do things over there that you can't even talk about or want to talk about.
Right.
And being open and honest and talking about my experience, it felt like that was the only thing I had to give, is being open and talking about, because I like, okay, I left the Army, I retired from the Army, and 6 weeks later, I went to work for the Army. That was the worst thing I ever did, because I never gave my brain chance to get out of war.
Right.
Because I went straight from the Army, I retired, and 6 weeks later, I'm working for the Army, doing some of the same stuff that I did in the Army. So my brain was still in military mode.
Right.
And so finally, after going through a divorce, but I was never violent. I was never cussing anybody out, anything like that. I was just self-medicating with alcohol, and that made me numb, and it made me not want to be in my environment. It's like I'm here, but I wasn't present.
Right.
So after going through divorce, I met another young lady, and we met at the Funny Bone Comedy Club.
There you
Yeah.
go.
And I say we met at the comedy club, but battling PTSD was no joke. So she's a young lady that didn't know anything about the military. Didn't know anything about the military, had never dealt with anybody in the military. So dealing with me was kind of different from her, but she liked taking care of people for some reason. So she got me into therapy. She got me talking to my therapist, got my kids in therapy. But that's the first time, well, that's the second time I felt seen, because I'm gonna talk about something. I pray it doesn't trigger anybody, but I did contemplate suicide. I was 24 hours away from contemplating suicide because I retired. I moved back home. And when I moved back home, I moved back home to people who didn't understand me. So it was like, you don't understand me. I'm going through a divorce. Everything around me is crumbling. The only thing I'm doing right is going to work and coming home. And when I come home, I'm drinking. I still was going to church, but that day that I wanted to commit suicide, it was a Sunday. And after my pastor got finished preaching, I walked up to the altar. He didn't know me from nobody. And I said, "Sir, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do." If he would have said, "Son, just pray about it," I was killing myself. I already had it planned out. He grabbed me. He says, "Don't move." He got two young men. He said, "I want you to take this young man, talk to him. Do not let him leave until you sure he is okay. Give him my phone number and and we will contact him, but do not let him leave until you sure he is okay. That is the first time I felt seen.
Mhm.
That is the first time I felt seen. I was like, whoa, somebody sees me. They don't see the veteran in pain. They don't see the mistakes I made. They see me. And from that was 2000 and that was 2010. And when he got me, I got with the guys, and it just like, whoo, okay. I got somebody who I can talk to and be real with.
Yeah.
And they was there for me. And that's when I met my wife after that. And the elevation started taking off into doing comedy, because comedy, that's why I got the name the Laugh Therapist. Because laughter and a therapist, of course, God, but laughter and a therapist saved my life. And that's why I call myself the Laugh Therapist. And I will always laugh. But as you know, earlier we talked about, I am a therapist, but I'm not licensed. I'm just medicated. All right. So
I love that. Yeah, I love
yeah,
that line.
yeah, I'm not licensed. I'm just medicated. But what I do, I am a certified peer recovery specialist. So my job is to grab people and get them to trust me, because my story is out there. I do so much on mental health awareness. People inbox me and they trust me. It's my job then to get them to the resources. I am a resources, but I know my mental capacity. I can't have 6, 7 people I'm working with.
Right.
I
Right.
can't. I have got to the point, Rob, I know myself. And that has helped me so much. I know myself, and I know my triggers, I know my limitations, I know what I can do. So being with my wife, we have talking to my therapist. The VA called her my caregiver. That's what the VA have a program called the caregiver. But my therapist said, we're going to change that wording. She's not your caregiver. That's what they want to say. She is your partner in recovery.
There you go. Yeah.
When we changed that wording to partner in recovery, it made both of us realize we both have to do something.
Mhm.
I have to go to my meetings. I have to take my meds. She has to do her part. So, in together, this is a recovery. And together, we have started our business, the Partner in Recovery LLC, where both of us go out sometime and we speak, and people hear from the spouse. Because all the time you want to hear from the veteran. No, there's a lot of times you need to hear from that spouse.
Yeah.
But they're the ones that have to be there with the veteran.
Yeah, agreed. There's a group effort. So I want to back up a moment
Yeah,
because
please do,
when
because I
when
just be
you
wrong.
no
I
no
just be
no
going.
no I just want to kind of compliment the timeline there. You did two trips, and then you get out of the army, and then you went to work for the army. So
Mm-hmm.
you did a double whammy to yourself twice, which
Yes.
was totally fine. But the part about you going to church when you were at such a dark place,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like, you said you were finally seen. It sounds like you were first heard. God heard you.
Correct.
It sounds like the commander of all
Yes.
sent a QRF squad to
Yes.
get you
They
out of
come
that
on now.
situation.
That is exactly what happened. That's
Yeah.
right.
And now
Yeah.
you have a co-partner. You got an XO. You got COXO, however you want to call the group there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys are recognizing that you understood it from your own situation, and then you're helping other couples and families,
Yes.
because there is collateral damage.
It is.
All of us, I grew up in a generation where most of our parents, I should say most of our, back then it was mostly fathers, uncles.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them were in Vietnam, and grandparents were World War II or Korea.
Yeah.
And there was such a different way that each of those campaigns were, number one, fought, number two, supported, number
Mm-hmm.
three, the veterans, completely different, completely
Correct.
different.
Correct.
A lot of people say, we know how much damage we did with the Vietnam vets, now we treat them, but Korean War, same deal. We didn't even call it a war, for crying out loud.
Wow.
So you had 3 generations there, and then we come up, and then you and I joining in the decade,
Mm-hmm.
and before it got serious, you can have a lighter approach. That was a gift to us from other generations.
Correct.
We had an easier life, so to speak.
That's true.
But like you said, you go through it, you go through some things you can't explain, you can't talk to people, they wouldn't get it anyways. And I'm grateful that our society has at least figured out
Mm-hmm.
that if a veteran goes through the effort of raising their hand and saying, hey, I got something going on I can't seem to control, at least we're not getting spit on,
Mm-hmm.
called a baby, you know
That's
what?
right.
Like at least we have a system now and a society now that has the proper acknowledgement of,
Correct.
hey, you know what? Yeah, let's get this person some help.
Correct.
And you've expanded that, and I'm so proud of you for that because the spouses were never part of that help.
Never.
You know, it's not like you go to the VA and I mean, the trauma of having to deal with someone who has night terrors laying next,
Mm-hmm.
trauma of the outbursts and whatever it is. People love, the spouses love, children love, parents love
That's right.
service member, their veteran. But there's almost like this unspoken, it becomes I have a very good friend that's been on the show before. His name is Joel Smith,
Okay.
and he has this wonderful thing he talks about. He says, we're not broken. We just need understood.
That's right.
It's really that's it. But the problem is the people that love us the most, they don't they don't know how to address it on their
Correct.
own.
Correct.
So if the veteran's not addressing it, the family, they're just going to start saying, like you talked earlier about your uncle from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
He says it. All the things that are actually symptoms become our personality.
Correct.
Oh, he's just cranky. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
he likes to
Mm-hmm.
be alone. Oh, she doesn't
Mm-hmm.
like to go and be with crowds. It becomes our personalities. And and that's because, as he explained it to me and during the show, that's their coping mechanism
Correct.
because they don't know how else to address it. So in their mind, it's easier to just say, they're not trying to be hurtful. In their mind, they're like, oh, he's just cranky, or oh,
Mm-hmm.
she just. So it's what you're doing is you're trying to educate and expand on the family as a whole of recovering, and that's something that obviously I support 100%. So
Well,
I love what you guys are doing.
and I'm gonna tell you what I did. This is what I did. I actually, when I told my therapist, I said, I can't explain this to my family. I need you to do it. And I brought them all in,
Yeah.
and she explained to them. It was like a burden was lifted off of me. She showed them a 3D model of my brain and
Mm.
said, this is the part of your brain that your father has an injury. When she said injury, that struck some. I said, wow, it's an injury. It's not damaged.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? You heard,
Right.
oh man, you damaged. No, it was an injury. And my kids, my daughter, she took on a whole nother persona of, I'm going to protect my dad. Ain't nobody going to drive him, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like the family had brought into it till I got to the point where I was like, I want to let y'all know. I know I'm the veteran. I know I've been through the war and everything, but I still want y'all to have a normal life as possible. So that's why I made myself go to the games. I made myself be in the crowds. I prepared myself. I'm tell you one thing that my daughter ran track and she felt so bad, Rob. She ran indoor track and you know they shoot the
Oh,
gun.
shot and gun, starting gun. Yeah,
And
starting gun.
I forgot, and she didn't tell me. And I said, "Baby, listen, that was not your fault. Please stop. That was not your fault." Because I actually got up under the the bleachers. So it's like you go through a lot in the family where everybody has to understand this is a different scenario.
Mm.
But one thing I do as a veteran, when I talk to other veterans, and me and my wife counsel other people, we tell them, veteran, you still have to do your part.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, you the veteran. Everybody is, trying to work around you. But you still have to do your part and not sit back and like y'all supposed to take care of me because I'm the one that went to war. No, that's not how it go.
Yeah.
That's not how it go.
You got to do the work. You got to
You
put
have
in
to
the
do,
work.
and that's the part doing the work.
Mm-hmm. So walk me through now the timeline of, you know, you've always had this natural gift. You've had this
Mm-hmm.
blessing of laughter.
Mm-hmm.
You've had people in your life you can joke around, pal around with.
Mm-hmm.
How did all that come into where you found a way to kind of work it into your day to where you actually, it's a living, right? It's a
Correct.
passion, it's a vocation, it's all those things all above. How did that opportunity come about? How did you find that opportunity? How do you go for it? How did the radio show? All those fun things I'm really curious about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when I retired and I left Oklahoma, I was always a person in the church that made folks laugh. And a young lady stopped me before I left and she said, listen, I'm telling you right now, I never thought I could do stand-up comedy. Now I go to the barbecues, I do comedy, I do all that, but I didn't know because to me, everybody who did comedy I like cursed. We had like maybe Sinbad or somebody like that, but there was nobody. Everybody I listened to,
Yeah.
even though they cursed.
Well,
So I was
sure. Our
like,
generation, let me guess. Maybe we have the same favorites here, but you're talking about Carlin, Richard Pryor,
yes,
Eddie Murphy, all the
yes,
greats, a couple older
yes,
veterans, by the way. Yeah,
correct.
yeah,
So
yeah. They were all very, very, you'd get the vinyl record and
there you go.
you had to
At
listen.
listen, at 13, 14, at 13 and 14 and 12, I had memorized all Richard Pryor records.
Yeah,
So I knew comedy.
yeah.
So when a young lady told me, she said, when you get home, you need to pursue comedy. I'm like, She said, I'm telling you what the Lord, she said, I'm telling you what the Lord is telling me to tell you. And I'm like, okay, why the Lord didn't tell me? So, so I get back home and we go to a church that we knew the pastor. So we go to the church and he didn't know I was, thinking about comedy and nothing like that. So we sitting in church and I said this is a true story. I said, God, let me tell you something. If you want me to do comedy, give me a sign. This is the first Sunday I was there. The second Sunday, the pastor said, for Valentine's Day, we're going to have a Valentine's couples night. And we're not going to bring a comedian from outside. We're going to find a comedian right here in the church. And I looked up. I said, you are funny. I know people thought I was retarded or crazy because I looked up. I said, you are funny. So I signed up. I was the only one that signed up. So I had to go and do like a pre-audition. I didn't know what to say. Only thing I knew is life is funny. And I did my 5-minute route and they loved it.
Yeah.
So then I had to do the actual routine and I didn't know no stage presence. I didn't know callback jokes. I didn't know too much of nothing. I just knew how to make folks laugh. So I did good. And I was like, okay, I might have to do this. So I had a couple of names. I was Slim because I really wasn't Slim. I was Reverend Peanut Butter and Jelly. I was just a character, so I was a character. So
Yeah.
what happened was I was talking to a friend of mine and I was like, listen, man, I really want to take this comedy thing serious, but I can't take it serious with these names. He said, okay. He said, well, let's do some brainstorming. So we started brainstorming. He said, well, what got you over the top with your therapy, with your stuff and your laughter? And he said, hold up. Why don't you call yourself the laugh therapist? And I'm like, wow, okay. So I started calling myself the laugh therapist. Then I went to the local Funny Bone. And as I told you, I was in debt. Everything around me was crumbling, but a young lady on my job, I made her laugh every day. Every day she would come on my desk just to get a laugh. So I told her, I said, listen, they got this comedy club. I said, they have this comedy boot camp and I wanted to go, but it costs $250. And I'm broke. I just told her straight up. Her and her husband sold the $250 into me. I did the boot camp. I did that. Then I went back to the Funny Bone and won 2 amateur contests.
That's fantastic.
And I'm like, okay, I felt like I got something to give now.
Mm-hmm.
So got me a mentor, started doing comedy, and it just took off to where I was using comedy, but also using mental health into it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started just getting more people that wanted to speak to me about the mental health. I partnered with the Wounded Warrior Foundation, and I started doing comedy shows for veterans. And to hear spouses come up to my wife and be like, I haven't seen him laugh in 5 months. And I said, oh my God, I'm on to something. Veterans need a laugh. They need somebody who they can connect to, who they can understand. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that birthed into something to the Laugh Therapist LLC. And I started doing more stuff with veterans. I started going to the VA hospital, speaking to veterans. And people said, you talk about mental health and what you do for veterans, but you do it in a comedic way that is not demeaning. I said, it can't be demeaning because I'm one of them.
Right. You know your audience.
I know my
You're
audience.
a member.
I'm a full-fledged card-carrying member. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that birthed into me just doing comedy everywhere, at churches, because everywhere I go, I'm clean.
Yeah.
And as I getting older, I'm 56, so I just talk about getting older. I talk about marriage. I talk about blending family, all stuff that I have. And I tell people when I go on stage, I say, I don't pick out anybody and joke on anybody in the audience, but you're going to hear yourself in all these jokes.
Oh, sure.
So then people started, word of mouth is a beautiful thing. Then people start sending me out to organizations. Then I partnered with USAA to do the We Face the Fight campaign for fighting suicide awareness for veterans. I did my podcast, all this stuff. It was coming at me so fast. I was like, I don't know if I don't hold on. Let me slow down. I don't know if I need to do this. Let me do this. And my wife would be behind me, and she said, "You the one that said you want to be the voice for veterans and mental health awareness." So I had to regroup. But that made me feel like I have a purpose.
Yeah.
Because once you leave the military, I had to start all over. I had to go do an interview. These little young kids, I was in IT, these little young kids around the table wanted to see my resume. I said, man, I just came back from war. You need to see my resume. So it's like I have something to give. And I left my job. I resigned from my job because it was really, my wife saw me dying. She was like, nothing's going to kill you. We're not going to allow this to kill you. So I started hanging out with my uncle named Dave Ramsey, and got with Uncle Dave. My kids hate Uncle Dave, and we.
It took me a second for
that. Yeah. And me and my wife, we said, listen, we have to get debt free because you're coming off this job. So for 2 years, we worked to get debt free, and we got debt free. And I left 6 months. When I left, 6 months after I left, COVID hit. And I'm like, all my gigs had dried up.
Yep.
I had gigs in New York, New Jersey. I had just launched my comedy career. And I'm like, I could have stayed at the job and worked from home.
All right, Lord, now what do you say?
So I'm sitting at home, and my wife had a routine. My wife worked part-time, but she's OCD. So sometimes we say PTSD married to OCD. So she had a routine. I felt like I was in the way. She would be vacuuming, she would be cleaning, and I'm like, I don't have nothing to do. She never made me feel like I was in the way. But in my mind, I'm in the way.
Sure.
I have nothing now.
Sure.
Yeah, we debt free, but I resigned from my job. I was making so all the anxiety and worry came back over me, and I had to go to my therapist. I said, I'm not going to make it. She like, Vernard, you done came too far. What are you talking about? You're not going to make it. I said, I have no purpose now. Comedy is gone. My job is gone. So I said, I don't even know how to connect with my wife. She said, well, that's one thing I can't tell you how to do. That's you and your wife. You need to connect. Boom. The car videos came up. And we started doing the car videos, and it made us connect.
There you go.
It made us connect. So we started doing them back in 2020. And we've been doing them so much that people have been blessed by what we just come up with.
Oh, absolutely. If you ever read the comments, I mean, my God. Yeah. It's the greatest, it's the greatest validation. I mean,
correct.
There's so many people that, and I don't know the clinical stuff here, but I'll tell you this. It's a known fact. When you laugh, you're releasing endorphins, all sorts of stuff. Your brain, they showed MRIs and things of people, good mood, bad mood, laughing.
That's right.
There's all sorts of you're physically changing things.
That's right.
With that boost, that energy boost. So think about what you're accomplishing, even with the videos. Those people are like doom scrolling, and then they come across something with grace and clean humor and all this, and it's like that's another way where you're.
And it's just something that we started doing, and we incorporated the kids. And people said, "Do y'all rehearse them?" No, some might happen. We'd be like, "That's a video."
Yeah.
And we'll just start, and we have been so connected that we blend off each other. Even my daughter, my son, we just blend off each other, and that has helped us. And I did not know it was helping so many people during the pandemic.
Yeah.
That the news station picked us up.
Yep.
and did a video on it. And I'm like, wow. I mean, because we did it to connect, for us to connect. And then it started blessing other people. And it's like people now, if we don't do a video within a week, they'll say, hey, what's going on? We need a video, because we use real life situations.
Yeah.
And we don't mind saying what's going on in our mate. You know, as my pastor would say, yeah, I'm transparent, but I ain't that transparent. So, you know, so even if we have a little disagreement, we'll get over it, and we'll do, because somebody can always relate to it. And the biggest one I have done, it has, right now, I think 2.9 million to 3 million views on her going to my VA appointment with me. And it's so, the comments, Rob, the wives like, that's right, I go
Yep.
to mine too.
Yep.
He don't want me to go. He can't remember what. So it's like, it's a blessing. It really is a blessing just to get folks talking, to see folks say, you know what? I need to be more involved in what my veteran go to. And some veteran be like, I want my spouse to go to my appointments with me. So it's like, we do it for laughter, but it's also a message behind it. So that's
God's using you in a powerful way, and I'm glad that you could include the family. That's huge.
yeah.
That's your reward, by the way. That's
Yeah.
God's way of saying, you know what?
Yes.
You're helping everyone else. I want you to enjoy this extra time, this bonding experience.
That's
You can never recreate that with any other.
correct.
There's no squad or platoon you can
That's, come
find
on
that.
now.
Yeah.
There's no squad or platoon, and it's amazing, because what I thought was, when COVID hit, what I thought was everything dried up. God was like, will you just let me orchestrate this thing?
Yeah.
That's when the radio show came up.
Yep.
There's a friend of mine in Killeen, Texas. Jamal was shopping his weekend show around, and the guy was like, hey man, I got a comedian that you need to put on your show. So Jamal would ask me to send him little clips, little recordings that he could play. Now finally he was like, hold up, man, you funny.
Yeah.
You funny.
You got something there. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, I'm going to shop around my morning show, and if someone pick it up, I want you to be the comedian on the show. I said, okay. You know, people say that, but it happened. I couldn't have done that if I was still working 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't travel to go and speak all the time like I do if I was working my 9 to 5. Me and you right now can be doing a podcast if I'm working 9 to 5.
Right.
So God allowed me to come off that job, and we have not missed a beat, because we stuck to his plan and got debt free, stayed debt free to a point, you know, Dave-ish, and, you know, continue to tithe, continue to give, continue to blessing others, and he's blessing us. Me and my wife, we laugh. I know we laugh at least 2-3 times, even if we have a disagreement. After it's over, we'll come back and we'll laugh about. I can't believe you. It's just what God have blessed me to have, a woman who I met in a comedy club and loves laughter just as much as I do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I sometimes say, God opens doors. God introduces you to people. You never know when God's not working on someone else to connect with you. Like
that's right.
Friend that introduced you to the show, the syndication show you're on. You never know all the intricacies of the plan.
Correct.
And I like what you said. You're like, okay, why don't you let God be God?
Yeah.
And God's not afraid to push or nudge or trip. I mean, it's out of love, but sometimes if you're on the wrong path, you're gonna get.
Oh, yes. I mean, I couldn't believe that USAA sent me to Vegas to speak at a convention, and I'm like, me?
Wow. Yeah.
And my wife was like, no, me. I'm the one that's behind this, okay? Because if it was up to you, you'd be sitting in the corner watching TV. So I had to nudge you a little bit. So it is. I give her the credit. She's a prayer woman. She prays for me. She sees me. She learned a long time ago from my pastor's wife. I don't have to be in the forefront. Mm-hmm. If I push him to his potential, I'm automatically gonna go. She was like, I'm here in Vegas with you. I ain't never told Nail joke on stage. I said, baby, but if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be here. So we don't get too big-headed to understand that this is a God thing. Yeah. He could have easily used anybody else, but he decided to use us, and we don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to speak. We're going to continue to go to these different, we've been invited to different places where I do most of the speaking. Then in the end, she gives a little spot of what the veteran goes through, especially when we go to the VA hospitals. A lady to come up and say, I never really heard it from the spouse's point of view. And if you go to the VA hospital, you got 85 to 90% of the spouses bringing a veteran in, period. Wives bringing in husbands, and husband bringing in wives. It doesn't
at the most critical point in they're in
Yes.
crisis mode, and the spouse, through no fault of their own, doesn't know the system, doesn't know the process.
Right.
And the veteran could have shared some information if they were getting some. It could have, but there's never
That's right.
communication. So yeah.
I mean, my doctors love when she come in. They love
sure.
it.
Yeah.
They talk to her first. Hey, Miss Hines,
Yeah.
how my veteran doing? And I just because they see us at our worst time.
Yeah. Yeah. So well, this is great, Bernard. Let me do this so we don't lose sight of this. You know, our listeners obviously love the veteran community.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our listeners are part of the veteran community and the spouse community. So everyone listening right now wants to support you. So don't be bashful. Tell us all the ways we can do that. If there's
Okay.
a website, the show, the station, how we can support, follow you, please lay it all out there, and I'll make sure all the links are below on our site as well.
All right. If you go to my website, it's www.thelaughTherapist.com. Okay. I say www. I shouldn't have to say it, but I still say it. TheLaughTherapist.com. It has all my information up there. It has my podcast. It has how to contact me. It has my radio station. It has my bio. It has my wife's bio. It has other links to my videos on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube at The Laugh Therapist. You can find me on Instagram at The Laugh Therapist, and on Facebook, you can find me at Vernard Hines. I need to that's the only one I keep, Vernard Hines. I don't want to change it. But everything else is The Laugh Therapist, and I'm Googleable. I'm Googleable. If you Google, if you put in The Laugh Therapist, I will come up. Okay, so I'm Googleable, and when I became Googleable, oh, Rob, you couldn't tell. I was walking around the house. I said, baby, Google my name. Google my name. I'm Googleable. So, yeah, but you can find me, Vernard Hines, anywhere on Bing, YouTube, anywhere. And all of our car videos, not all of it, all the way back from 2020. The best part, one of these videos is I did videos with my daughter. She's a senior right now at Virginia Tech. So I started doing them with her as a freshman. The Virginia Tech parents page said, listen, I don't care where you put them videos, but you have to put them on this page. And we just did little skits about her going to school, and when she coming home from college, hey, bring your meal plan home with you because you ain't eat. It's just stuff that parents really had. It was just, laughter is a gift, a free gift. Yep. And when we get to a point in our life that we can't laugh, we need to go and talk to someone. We need to find out, because that's a free gift from God.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
humor
yes,
absolutely heals. Yeah.
If you can get a belly laugh where you can just cry laughing, it's a beautiful thing. And do I laugh? Excuse me. I try to laugh every day, but sometimes when I don't laugh, I know there's something wrong. Time to me to regroup. And my family know, okay, something's wrong with him. He ain't crack a joke right now.
Yeah.
But I am serious too, but I'm never going to be too serious to where I can't reach any and everybody.
That's fantastic. Well, I do want to ask you one fun question.
Okay.
I always enjoy this at the end. I enjoy science fiction. Okay. So my work makes me read a lot of real facts all day.
Okay.
So you need some fantasy somewhere in there to just break it up. So I like time travel. So here's my question.
Okay.
Through all the things you've been through, good, bad, and all that, the blessed and the challenges.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a minute or less, and you could literally time travel and just talk to your younger self before going off to the Army, what would be that conversation? What would you encourage or warn or advise your younger self, knowing now everything you've been through?
One or two.
Whatever you want.
The first thing I would tell him is start saving from the first day you join the military. Start saving your money. And the second thing I would tell him is get healed from your childhood trauma. Those are the two things I would tell. Get healed from your childhood trauma and save your money.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the reason I say I never thought I would get 50, never thought I'd be 56. You don't think about it when you join the Army at 18.
Right. Right.
And you get all this money and you don't, So that is that's two things I would tell that person.
Sound advice, sir. Sound advice.
But I want to share one more thing, Rob,
Please. Yeah.
that we didn't get a chance.
Please.
PTSD, they call it post-traumatic stress disorder. I call it processing traumatic situations differently.
Yeah, I love that.
That is the name of my podcast. PTSD, processing traumatic situations differently, is on all podcast platform. I used to do just veterans, but now I won't let everybody know that PTSD is not just a military disorder. Right. So I talk to anybody who's had trauma and they overcame that trauma and now do positive things. And long as you are processing it legally and ethically, do your thing. If you got to go out here and swim, if you got to do art, if you got to ride a horse, as long as you're doing it legally, process it. Mine's is laughter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for the time and joining us today. This has been a laugh and also just a wonderful, inspiring story. Your story of service to our country, what you're doing. You're taking care of folks. You're helping. You're inspiring others. And I sincerely want to thank you and your family. Really, I mean, you're continuing to share joy in the world,
and we need it.
We
need it.
We need it like sunlight. We need it every day.
Yes, we need to laugh. I mean, life is serious enough, but if you can just take that break and get together and just laugh.
Yeah.